Hello, everybody, and welcome to Edusations. I am joined today by Tracy Kelly out in the great state of California. And if you can see his picture, you can see he's enjoying the great outdoors right now. Tracy, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to the viewers?
Sure. My name is Tracy Kelly. Not to be confused with a female. I am a male. I know my name makes it weird that way. I am sitting at a lake as my boys are at a birthday party. In case you're not watching the news, we've had a lot of fires, so there's a lot of smoke in the air. But the breathing's better today than it was yesterday. And I talked to Phil more than once about color. That's why he's got the banners behind him. So I figured I'd bring in some trees and some outside goodness.
That's right. Tracy is one of the top commenters on Edusations. He gives me great ideas to help improve the landscape of the place.
I believe in our story is important, and I'm going to share mine real quickly. Feel if you're what's the word I'm looking for? Yeah, I'll figure it out. I am a late bloomer to education. I dropped out of high school halfway through the 11th grade after I'd been on independent study, total abandonment of school, all those different things. Joined the Marine Corps, found out that life is not as easy as I thought it was, worked, and by the age of 36, I realized I needed to get my degree, at least a degree, to have more career opportunities. So I was 39, finished my bachelor's in economics. Didn't really like working inside of being a data analyst, for lack of a better term.
Okay.
I wanted to be outside. I wanted to do more. My wife introduced me to special education, which I didn't want anything to do with. For one, I had enough trouble in school. For two, people that are different. Oops, there went a note. People that are different, I didn't realize I was one of those people.
Okay.
So once I got into special ed, you realized that is my tribe, if I want to use that word. These are the people that I should be with. Because I realized that nobody after the 6th grade, no teachers, no staff on any campus, made a connection with me at all, which I think is the biggest reason for my dropout. There just wasn't, I thought I knew everything, and nobody was making an effort for me that I was aware of. So I think that's why special ed is such a great fit for me. In California, we have 2 special ed credentials. One for mod severe, which I know in Virginia you guys would call EBS, or the more behavior. Our second is a mild moderate, which is more of like an RSP pull-out push-in for those that are within a grade level or two within a grade or two below grade level. Got the master's in special education, finished all my coursework for the doctorate in educational leadership, and now I'm a dissertation away from Dr. Kelly, which, woo,
that's
so
awesome.
Excited.
Congratulations.
So that's my short story.
No, I love. Thank you for sharing that, and thank you for your service in the Marines too. I really appreciate that. Being almost Dr. Kelly, you're writing your dissertation. What's the theme of your dissertation?
This is going to get convoluted, as all these titles are.
Okay.
Is the economic downturn of 2008 to 2012 and how that affected gen education teachers going into special ed, and then why did they stay if they did?
Okay. What are some connections that you've been able to make thus far in your research and in your writing? What are some different data points that you've been able to say, like, okay, this is a cause of this?
And this is I'm going to try to keep it as non-convoluted as I can.
Okay.
Worldwide, we are having special education shortages. Worldwide. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. When I became a special education teacher in 2010, the average lifespan of a special education teacher was about 3 years.
Okay.
I heard a number yesterday in a conversation that's down to 1.5 to 2.
Wow.
Yeah, that's really bad. Part of it's money. I mean, it's always money for a teacher. Not always, but money is a big deal, especially in the U.S. Not having the federal government pay any part of it.
Right.
That's a problem. Or very little, especially what we need. Support. Administration support is probably the biggest thing I hear, because special ed is hard enough that when you get a
I'm going to go into the lake.
Okay. My son tells me he's going into the lake now.
Because person keeps trying to push me down this slide with him when I want to stay.
Because he loves you. Support with administrators that are typically in California, and I'm sure it's nationwide. Actually, I'm sure it's North America wide because that's where my research is going.
Okay.
Gen ed teachers become administrators. Administrators have to learn how to be administrators from other gen ed teachers.
Okay.
And it's not 100% of it, but it's pretty close to that. And so we don't have a lot of diversity as far as academic experience in our administrators.
Okay.
And they all learn the same way, and they do the same things, even though sometimes they think they're doing different things. And there are a lot of great ones out there. Just a lot of them, especially the ones that've been around for a while, continue to do the same things over and over again.
And expect those different results, right? That definition of insanity.
Yeah.
What are some things that you think gen ed teachers need to know then, or like if they want to move on to the administration level, or if they just want to better meet the needs of their students that have special needs?
So it varies obviously quite a bit.
Sure.
A lot of times we don't give gen ed teachers the information out of the individualized education program, the IEP, for what they need to work on. We don't necessarily give them support. And a lot of time, when I was teaching at the university, for the gen ed teacher preparation programs, they would have one course that did an introduction basically to the terminology of special ed. So there was no experience or even discussions about what kind of kids you might get in your class, what their behaviors may be, how to support them. Because with the gen ed teaching credential in California, you can teach any student legally.
Okay.
Special ed, you're not supposed to be teaching gen ed specifically. And so that's a little different, but I hope the future, and I think it's in California, I think what's going to happen is they will start pushing both credentials on new teachers. And I don't use push in the negative way, but I really think that that's one of the ways we're going to get out of 100% inclusion, because California has mandated 100% inclusion, which if you've ever seen any severe kids or any of the EBS kids, no matter how much support you get, not every one of those can be in a gen ed classroom all day.
Yeah, so what are some of those determining factors in deciding like who gets inclusion and who is in a self-contained classroom?
Okay, so most of the times your kids are getting mild moderate support, RTI, RSP support. Like I said, they're a grade or two below grade level, because typically once you hit 3 years, you go into the behavior or the moderate severe on the West Coast. But typically, those kids that are going to automatically be in mod severe or the behavior, they're identified much earlier. They're identified as early as 1.5 years. Typically, if it's firstborn, it's kind of difficult, but you're shooting for 3.5 to 4 years old. You know where their issues may be if they're that bad. The ones that are a little behind, you don't necessarily know until first, second, or third grade, because kinder, your alphabet and your numbers up to 120. I mean, now it's more writing. Still, kinder's not mandated. So that's not such a big deal. First grade you might notice, but second and third grade you're really noticing that they're a little bit behind. And it can take anywhere from 6 months to 3 years to truly get a kid identified and in an additional setting, especially if there's not a lot of great communication in the school, or your administrator might be a newer administrator. They don't know enough to get them in there sooner.
Okay. So then let's say that we have a student in our classroom that isn't identified yet. What are some tips that you would give a teacher to help them kind of accommodate those child's needs before they can get through all the meetings and all the paperwork? I think a lot of us as gen ed teachers are trying to find ways and we work to meet needs of our students at all different levels. But I also think that it's great having a special education teacher on the show, because you have a great toolbox of knowledge for us as well.
Well, I appreciate that, and I share my toolbox. Just give it away. I would, because I try, but
right.
it's difficult sometimes for people to understand, and not that it's difficult to understand. The concepts are simple. It's getting chances to practice and finding those kids, because if you haven't heard the saying, if you know one kid with autism, you know one kid with autism. But the strategy for all kids are pretty much the same, huh?
Say that saying again. You
okay.
Cut out.
If you know one kid with autism, you know one kid with autism.
Okay.
Because they are so varied, but all kids are, even though they have general tools. It's so It can be intimidating, it can be scary, it can be a lot of things. So formal and informal assessments are best friends for teachers that are looking to support children. Excuse me. So in the beginning of the year, it's not easy to do a formal assessment because when you're trying to figure out who your kids are, make sure your class looks pretty, make sure you have the right books, right? So you know the people. So informal assessments are simple, check for understanding. The kids' behavior. If they're not, if you've done let's say a round robin, I'll call it, where every kid introduce themselves. If they aren't able to introduce themselves, or if they're so shy that it causes them to cry or shut down, those are signs that you might want to start paying attention.
Okay.
If your building or your district or division for you guys has benchmarks, that's a formal assessment. That's really helpful data.
Yeah.
You know, we were talking about check the data. You've got to get the data.
Right.
Most of the issues with your mild, moderate kids are spelling, or not spelling, but reading, letter identification, letter sound, the younger grades. When you get up to middle school and high school, if they haven't built the foundational levels, they're going to struggle with reading comprehension, speed of reading, because hopefully by that time they've picked up the alphabet and the sounds, but they're not necessarily reading at the depth we want them to. And sometimes those kids just need to, if you're in a language class or an English class, maybe they just need to read. Maybe it's a lower level book that they're reading, and that's what you work on with them.
Okay.
Your specific learning disabilities, SLD, obviously math and typically the reading skills, language skills, very similar skills to ELD, your English language development kids. The strategies are all the same. And like I said, most of the time it's going to be those foundational skills that you're working on. But if you don't have data, formal or informal, you're not going to be able to help them well. And your site administrator is not. Right. And your site administrator is going to want data. They're going to want 3 to 6 months of hard data of what they can and can't do.
Right.
Not what you think they can do, but what they can and cannot do.
Yeah, like there's a total difference between saying, you know, like, I think this, and being able to say, here is this information that I've collected. Here's this data that I have that proves this, this, and this. How can we support the child in this particular area? That's a good point. You know, you work in different settings in special education. You work 3 to 5, you told me, right?
Currently, I'm 3 to 5. I've done all of K-12.
Okay, so you've done all K-12. What are some different ways that you've worked in buildings to build relationships with your students, like that are both on your caseload and also just students that are in a classroom that you're also in?
Okay, so one of the fun things I just finished up this year, because I went to another district or division, different grade level than I had, well, the year before I was at the university, but a 3-5 and totally mild, moderate, or SDC setting. And I had a caseload of about 15 in my classroom. And the simple thing as a morning handshake. I let each kid determine their own handshake. We could change it at any time. I did learn to floss. I'm not very good, but I know how to do it finally. Those things, and that's the first thing in the morning. That sets the tone for every kid coming in my class. Yeah. Because at that point, I know if they're angry, if they're having a great day, if they need additional support in some way where their mindset is. Because I'll have kids hit me. I mean, I've been hit in the face I don't know how many times. And it's not because they hate me. It's because they have an issue that at that point I either can't recognize or I'm not able to help them with. And it's just a matter of building that relationship. So the handshakes is one of those relationship builders for me. It sets the tone first thing in the morning. But I also will open up my classroom because I have 7 computers in the room. In a lot of kids get one-on-one, but I have 7 computers. So I have the kids, I open it every kid. As long as they can greet me, good morning, good afternoon, Mr. Kelly, may I please come in your class? Because I teach them how to do that. I model that. They can get that part done. I invite them in my room.
That's awesome.
I want kids in my room to be connected to school.
Yeah.
All the kids on my campus.
Yeah.
So
and you also feel like, you know, this is just like this is, you know, the special education room. You just want to feel this is a classroom, this is a school. Like, welcome to this room, right? Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, I had one of my mentor teachers years ago. One of the things that she said is, I tell any kid that asks about my class that it is so hard you have to take a test to get in. And that worked well for her. It doesn't necessarily work well for me.
Sure.
But the concept is, yes, our kids struggle, but what kid doesn't struggle, and why make it worse for them, make it more difficult to their surrounding people they think it's harder.
Right.
So
that's a good thought behind it, and that's a good way to think about that.
It is.
Too, whenever you're trying to reach those students there. Now you're teaching currently out in California, and I'm on the other coast. So I imagine through different sort of Twitter engagements, you've kind of seen, because a lot of people on Twitter typically seem, well, I don't want to say typically, a lot of people out east that are doing a lot of talking, but I don't think there's enough conversation about West Coast education. What do you think or what are some differences that you've noticed through Twitter about education on the West Coast compared to the East Coast?
Okay, well, we've traveled. My wife's her family's from southern Pennsylvania, Lancaster area.
All right.
And I'm within 45 minutes of Lancaster, California, but I prefer to say Lancaster because Pennsylvania is more important to me. As a parent, I've realized the depth of the education on the East Coast versus the West Coast. It's a lot richer with history. Obviously, Civil War stuff up and down the coast, the states. Just the outlook on education, it's more family orientated. It's more about not necessarily this is what your job is, but the staff is going to provide the deepest wealth of knowledge that they can. And on the West Coast, it's kind of like especially in our lower socioeconomic districts, a lot of times it's just how do we get through the day. And not that it's bad, but I mean, one of my pet peeves is parents come just bringing their kids to school in their pajamas. Yeah, I'm sure it happens everywhere.
Yeah, I was just thinking we have some students that do that, yeah.
Yeah, you may have some. I've been to schools where it was 90%.
Okay.
And it just doesn't set the right tone for the value of the educational system.
Gotcha.
And so, a lot of times we're overcoming, did the kid have a pencil last night to do homework? Did they have a space? Our lower socioeconomic kids, do they have a space to do the homework? Do they have time? Are they taking care of other kids? So yes, these affect special ed more at a greater percentage because special ed has a greater percentage of parental breakups and different things. But all of our kids deal with this, and we don't have the depth here of knowledge that the East Coast has. Whoops. So it's just, do you see me? Because I don't see me anymore.
I just lost you. You're back.
Okay. Hold up.
Okay.
Can you still hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
All right. So it's just a different outlook. If you think of the surfer dudes or Valley Girl, I think a lot of our education comes across that way because it's just kind of something we do. We can be outside so much more often. There's so many more things to do weather-wise and outside that isn't necessarily the base of the child's upbringing.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I follow you on that. Okay. Yeah, I hear you on that.
And if it doesn't, I'm sure you'll clear it out for me. Yeah.
Okay. So there is a clear difference then, or there's at least a perceived difference regarding different areas of education. That's something that I was thinking about whenever I was thinking about what are some things I want to talk to Tracy about, but I wasn't really sure if we would find a difference. But it does sound like there is something pretty distinct.
Well, and Phil, if you look at Texas education, we've all heard the stories that Texas football is a lot of things these small towns do on weekends or Friday nights. The whole town goes. The more research I do, especially focused around Texas, it is amazing what they do, only because those small communities may only be 3,000, 5,000 people, but the school community is so in depth with itself, so in touch with itself, that I haven't seen anything that rivals that yet.
Wow.
So it's really interesting.
Yeah. So do you guys think that's typical, or do you think Texas has just kind of been able to build this on their own?
I think Texas as a whole kind of thinks of their own country anyway, which you got to give them props for that, because they do. But I think because I used the term Mayberry the other day talking about the Andy Griffith show.
Uh-huh.
And I think a lot of those smaller communities still have that. And the reason I bring it up that way is because we were in Boise, Idaho for a couple of days, and I actually found one of those communities. Now, I'm in a town of 15,000 people here up in the mountains. My wife works in a town, or really a city, of 3,000. And the one I work in, even though we're the same district, my city is 15,000. And I drive about an hour, 15 minutes one way. But we don't have those.
Okay.
We don't have that small town feel, and I don't know if it was ever there. I don't know if we try to force it and it doesn't work. You know, it's funny because out in California, and not everywhere, this has just been my experience in the Central Valley and down Southern California. We don't know our neighbors. We don't go outside and hold block parties as a general rule. We don't, you know, we get out, you know, we take the kids take the bus to school, which is not a big deal, but you may have 8 stops of 3 kids apiece.
Right.
I mean, that's obviously the numbers aren't exact, but I mean, it's that kind of thing. So we don't have that foundational community school setting. It's a lot more fragmented than that.
Yeah, definitely. So maybe someday they'll figure that. Well, hey, Tracy, listen, I've really enjoyed having you on. We've talked about special education, inclusion settings. I think we have some great tips for educators that are looking to help meet the needs of their students better. We're getting to that point where it's time for everybody's favorite part of the show, high fives. So these are questions, totally unrelated to education. And just give me the thought that comes to mind, okay?
Don't let me embarrass myself, Phil. Don't let me embarrass myself.
Well, no promises now. First one, favorite book.
Oh, man. That's going to take a second. I think I'm reading 3 teacher books right now. Man.
It can be a childhood book. Yeah.
You know, I'm going to go with the Llama Llama series.
Llama.
I'm going to go with the Llama Llama series.
Okay.
Very basic, good for rhyming.
Oh, yeah. What'd you say?
Oh, basic rhyming skills, colorful. Well, I guess this is not the spot to promote mine, so we'll go on with Llama Llama series.
Okay. Second one, least favorite food growing up.
Growing up.
Yeah.
Man. See, family raised me Southern, so collard greens and fried liver are awesome.
Uh-huh.
As I get older, I find out that things aren't as easy to work off. They don't taste the same.
Uh-huh.
Least favorite food growing up. Man, I used to have hot dogs for breakfast because you just get up and go to school, and that's what you'd eat on the way. Oh, man. See, these are difficult. Brussels sprouts. I'm going to go with Brussels sprouts. Still don't like those today.
Safe answer. I always hated hamburger helper growing up. Crayons or colored pencils?
Oh, crayons every day.
Yeah? How about your favorite sport or activity?
Oh. Say that one again.
Favorite sport or activity?
Oh, man. The outdoors. I've completed 10 marathons, and this is my 3rd year coming up of doing Fresno to Pismo, which is a 200-mile relay run. There's 12 of us on the team. So I'm going to have to say running.
Good for you. That's awesome. And then last one, sweet or savory?
Oh, savory every day. Barbecue, Kansas City barbecue, you cannot go wrong.
Excellent. Well, hey, Tracy, I've really enjoyed having you on the show today. Is there anything else you want to add or let people know about you before we sign off?
If anybody wants me to help them answer some questions, if anybody has a special ed story they would love to give me and share, because that's what I'm here for. I'm an educator. I want to help people, and I want to hear their stories to see what our similarities are. So if you want to throw my Twitter handle there, we can do that. It's probably the easiest way. I'm pretty sure you do that anyway. And if enough people vote for me, I'd love to have a second episode, Phil. But if they come back and say, don't have him again, don't do it. But I would love to do another one.
Good. Tracy, loved having you on today. Love getting to talk to you. Hey, if you're a viewer right now and you do want to connect with Tracy, you can very easily find his Twitter handle in the description of the video. And you'll also, if you rewind through the video, you'll find it in different places there as well. Absolutely loved having you on. And if you've enjoyed what you've seen today and you want to subscribe to the show, you can do so by clicking below. Also, if you or somebody you know are interested in being on Edusations, they can very easily sign up by going to philstrunk.com/contact. Thank you all so much for watching. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Phil.